there's no wrong time to get into real estate as long as you're making smart decisions and you can afford it. Right.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk About Real Estate with Alexis Mata. Today we are only talking about real estate. I actually have a very special person that I got to meet. He is an agent and an investor. His name is Ryan. Thank you for coming on, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Ryan?
So who am I? So first and foremost, I'm a man of God. I'm a father, husband. We have one son. He's 4-year-old currently, and we have one on the way actually. So in May, we'll have our second.
I have a baby born in May too.
Nice.
It's a good month.
Yes.
She came on Mother's Day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My mom was born in May and my brother too. So
Really?
the baby might fall right in the middle. We'll see.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what got you into real estate, Ryan? How did real estate become Ryan's life?
Real estate has just always been something in the back of my mind. It's always been either play football or do real estate. I don't know why that is, but just happened that way. And I know my dad and my grandfather, they own like rental properties. So I think that's kind of where I got my first taste of it.
I love that.
And I worked with my uncle in New Orleans for a while. He's a contractor down there in New Orleans. And that's really where I fell into the passion of fix and flips, right? Being able to go into a house and see what it could be and doing all that stuff. So,
What was your first fix and flip?
my first fix and flip, I did several with him, but my first one, my first investment was a house hack actually.
Really?
And I didn't even know I was doing it.
I love that.
I wanted to buy a house when I moved back home from college. I was like, I can't just move in with my parents. I gotta get my own place, right? And I was like, I don't want to rent. I want to buy something. So one way or another, I figured out how to do it. We bought the house, and then I was like, well, what if I just rent out these other rooms and people can help me pay the mortgage? And so I did that, held that property for about 2 years, and then I sold it 2 years later. Made a profit, was able to pay off my student debt, and yeah, I was kind of off to the races from there. I wish I had a mentorship back then to tell me, hey, let's roll that one into the next project and keep it going. I probably would have had a large portfolio by now. But I didn't have that. But hindsight, I did what I needed to do with the property. So, yeah.
That was insane. So what did that house hack look like for you? How much was that saving you in a mortgage payment every month?
I believe back then, this was 2012, so the payment was about $1,200 a month, and I just split it up. So I said those 3 rooms in there, so they'll pay a third, I pay a third, and the other person pays a third. So
That's insane.
yeah.
You know how many people back in 2012 were like, that's ridiculous. I will never pay $1,200 for a mortgage.
Right.
I'm going to go rent for $600
Yes.
or whatever that looked like
Yes.
back then. So that was insane. And then you were paying even less than what you would have been paying for a rental at that time, I assume,
That's
based
correct.
off of those numbers.
That's correct. And this is in Southern California too. So that same house today is worth like $600,000. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think everybody's probably biggest regret in selling or in doing something is selling, unless it makes sense to sell, unless that property actually creates like, trauma or it was just a bad deal that's gone wrong, then yeah,
Correct.
get rid of it. Because if your emotions to that property are completely out of whack, then that property is doing you no service.
Correct.
And really, if you sell a property and move it into the next one, you're not losing anything. If anything, you've gained so much because now you gain back your peace of mind. Now you gain back that momentum. Now you're like, oh, I feel good about this. This is new. This is fresh. I could breathe again, right?
Yep.
So what was your next property after that?
So my next property was 2017. I bought that one actually from my uncle in New Orleans. I've never seen that property. I've never met a tenant, but it's been cash flowing for me.
That's insane.
Yes, I've sold it. Actually, it's on a seller finance deal right now, so there's about 3 years left. So, yeah, But yeah, that one's been good to me. It's been interesting times, a lot of a big learning curve because I managed it all myself. I didn't like have a property manager out there or anything. So
Even from all the way over here or California or wherever you were. I mean, we're over on this side of the world, and New Orleans is way over there.
yes. So I just had to get creative. You know, I leveraged my uncle for things that needed repairs. He had like handymen and things like that.
So you had feet on the ground per se.
Correct. So I had help in that sense. And then we did Section 8 rentals. So that's where I got my tenants from. I had three tenants in that time frame. So.
And how did that look like for Section 8? Because I know a lot of people are pretty skeptical on doing Section 8. And it can be skeptical, right? Like there's certain things that could happen, but the same thing could happen to a normal renter, a renter that has 700 credit and they have over 3 times the rent, but then they can become the most nightmare tenant that's ever existed.
Correct.
Stop paying, they go ghost, and so what did that look like? Did you have pretty much of a smooth process with that? Since you didn't even need to meet a tenant, I would assume so.
Yeah, it was pretty smooth. I would say the last tenant I had before I sold it, they were a little tough. They were a little tough, and they left the house a little bit of a mess. But other than that, it was a pretty good experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you become an agent? Because it sounds like you were obviously an investor first and foremost. Even when you were just purchasing your first property, you became an investor, whether you knew it or not. Why an agent?
I remember, and I don't even know how I got to this thought process, but my thought was I become an agent, become a broker, build a real estate empire, and then kind of run from there. I no longer want to be a broker, by the way.
Dreams change.
Yes. So I just thought it was a step into real estate. So to fast forward a little bit, or I guess rewind, however you want to look at it, I was working in the corporate space back in 2020 when the pandemic hit.
Okay.
And we were living in San Diego. And when they announced the pandemic, my job downsized my position. My wife got let go of her job, and we had our son. So it was a lot to figure out all at one time. And I remember I was telling people as they were leaving that job, previous to me leaving, that what do you really want to do? What's your passion? What do you want to chase in life? And when I got let go, I just had to turn around and ask myself that same question. Like, what do I really want to do? And real estate was always that thing that was in the back of my mind. So I said, I'm going to spend all of 2020 studying real estate. And that's what I did. I studied for my real estate license. I remember I had a schedule. So in the morning, I would study for my real estate license. And in the afternoons, I would be on Bigger Pockets, watching podcasts, learning how to analyze deals. Yeah. So I treated it like a 9-to-5 job while we were sitting at home.
I love that because Bigger Pockets is exactly what got me to where I am today.
That's
because
awesome.
I had the same epiphany when I realized I couldn't do the corporation anymore. I mean, I didn't get let go, but I let myself go because I was so far gone from that life that I was miserable. I wasn't treating people good anymore. I wasn't treating my employees good anymore. Yeah. It really came to a point in time where I had to ask myself, Alexis, what are you doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And real estate was really the first thing that stuck out to me. Like, there's so many people that can build a life off of this, and it's so untalked about. I mean, gurus talk about it, those people that make it seem like it's a get-rich-quick scheme, like kind of like cryptocurrency, but it's so much more than that.
Absolutely.
There's so many moving pieces, but what I really like about real estate is all the jobs and opportunities and people that you get to help in one single transaction.
Absolutely.
It blows my mind, especially on the investing side of things. Look at how many people you employ, whether you're doing a fix and flip or a BRRRR or a STR, because, I mean, unless you're self-managing everything, I mean, you still need cleaners. You still, like, you are creating so many jobs in real estate.
Very true.
It's like a no-brainer. It's like giving back while giving to yourself. So
Very true.
When being an agent, how many people have you helped in their real estate career?
Ooh.
Or in at least starting their real estate journey?
I don't have a count off the top of my head. It hasn't been a ton. I'll be transparent. What I think the value that I'm focused on now is when I did sit down to learn a bunch of strategies within real estate, I feel like I'm in a season right now, in a space right now where I need to turn around and teach, at least what I know, right? I'll never claim to be the wealthiest or the best or anything like that, especially not at this season. But I do have value that I can provide and help somebody to get started. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm focused on being a connector and connecting people to the right resources they need, right? Whether that's their next deal, whether that's a lender, whether that's a title person, whether they just need to figure out how to make phone calls, simple stuff. So that's what I'm laser focused on.
And that you've already accomplished that, because you
Correct.
doing that is how I met you.
Yes.
Because you do something that's really special. And honestly, so many people think about doing something like what you and your team have done, but you did it.
Correct.
And you're doing it every Thursday. So where can we find you every Thursday?
Every Thursday, we're at Parkway Tavern at our meetup, 4930 or 4930 Tropicana. So we started this meetup. I went up to Utah. So there's a realtor, Scott, Red Suit Realtor. Shout out to Scott. He's been in the industry for 5 years, and he built his career off of doing meetups, right? And now he helps a ton of people to fix and flip homes. His goal actually this year is to help 1,000 people to fix and flip homes. So I was like, I love it. I love really the passion and the drive that he has and what he's creating up there. So I said, what if I can duplicate that down here in Vegas, right? So I drove up to Utah. We sat down with him and we went over from A to Z how he ran his meetups. And I came back to Vegas and I told my team, I told my partner Will and one of our other partners, James, I said, this is what I want to do, and I think we can be very successful at it here in Vegas. And they were like, this sounds amazing. When do you want to do it? And I said, next week. And they were like, are you crazy? But I was just like, we just have to do it, right? It's about imperfect action, right? Because you're never going to learn something and then do it perfectly right away, right? You got to take action and you got to put in the reps to be good at it. So I was like, we're in the middle of December. Let's just start, right? We'll probably get maybe 2-3 of these meetups in December, and then January will be like our full launch. And we had a great turnout in December right off the bat. So we just kept it rolling, and we had one meetup that we had over 45 people there, so that was awesome. Our regular attendance has been between 15 and 20 people, but we're seeing new faces all the time. And we're getting a lot of great feedback on what the mission and the goal of the meetup is. So yeah, it's been fun.
I feel a sense of like accomplishment when I leave those meetups, right? Like from being able to talk about who I am to being able to see all the different people and all their different avenues, right? Because there's so many different people that come to this meetup every Thursday, whether they're an attorney, whether they're somebody that does auctions, whether they're an actual fix and flipper, like the one that's done over, how many did he say that he has
50.
done?
Yeah,
and that's insane. In Vegas, he's done, even with
Vegas.
the way that, Vegas is pretty pricey. So to be able to do a fix and flip of 50 plus times in a year, that man obviously knows what he's doing, and he knows how to get a really good deal, and he has the right tools to make sure that not only is he purchasing the property for the right price, he has those tools and those fundamentals and those people, those resources to be able to carry on to that, pretty much that finish line.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you're building in that community. So I think it's really something special. Honestly, I really enjoy thoroughly going every Thursday. And that first moment that I heard you talk in that, when you pretty much introduced who you were and why you were doing it, I was like, that's my guy. That's my guy.
Love it.
Because nobody takes a chance on themselves. Not only did you take a chance on yourself becoming an agent, now you're taking a chance on yourself on pretty much founding the sense of community, and people are coming time in and time again. And that last one that I had went to see all those people in that room was intense.
Yes.
Because all eyes were on you.
Not all eyes are on me. It's
But
not just me up there. I have my partner Will. I have James. So we're all,
no, you have a really good
it's a community.
It is a
Yeah,
community, but
yeah.
to be able to just have this idea to say this is what we're doing, we need to do it, and we need to do it now, because if we don't do it now, that this little light inside of me, it'll die.
Yeah.
And it'll just be a thought.
Yep.
And that's what happens to people, right?
Yep. I heard a quote a while back, and I forget where it's from, but it's, if you want to take action on something, it's like if you do it within the first day, you have 100% chance of doing it. If you do it the next day, it like reduces by like 50%, and then further down the line from there. So I always keep that in the back of my mind when I want to do something. It's like, let's just jump, let's go do it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll move on to the next thing.
I love it. What challenges are you seeing in our market right now? Because there's some challenges, right? Especially in Vegas. I mean, even with you coming from California, it's the same. It's the same. I mean, we're a little bit less expensive than California, but we're a lot more expensive than a lot of the more affordable states. So what would your advice be to somebody that wants to get into the game?
For somebody that wants to get into the game, I would say find somebody that you can partner with that will help to teach you and coach you on the right things to do. That's the fastest way, right? Because you don't have to, you can kind of borrow their experience and you don't have to bump your head as much. So find that. I would say the biggest challenge in today's market here in Vegas is there's a lot of deals out there floating around that don't have a whole lot of margin. So it's pretty tight, but there's still opportunities there. It just takes a little bit more time to dig for those opportunities, right? And as the market continues to grow here and the sports teams keep coming and the VA is building and Elon is doing stuff underground and all this crazy stuff is happening here in Vegas, it is pushing the values of the houses up, right? And that's a challenge for people in California. It's sometimes the values are too high for them to even start and to get into the game. But there's always opportunities to partner with capital, partner on opportunities, partner with people who have the work, like they can do the construction, and just kind of put the pieces together, right? Don't be scared to put a team together and share those resources, right? I feel like a lot of times people want it all for me and I got to keep all the money, but you can go faster by yourself, but you can go further as a team.
That's
pretty.
I mean, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that succeed every day on their own. But the corporations that we see that are really successful, they obviously didn't do it on their own.
Correct.
No, I think everything that you said is pretty much spot on. And I read this thing that if things continue to go on in the way that they're going, in building terms, I mean, that all of our land in Las Vegas is going to be gone by 2032. So this is what I want to tell to people. If that's a statement that's going on, if all of our land's going to be gone in 2032, what do you think that's going to do to our home prices? What is waiting going to do for you? If we cannot have any more inventory that's here and we have to rely on the inventory that is only in Las Vegas because we can't build anymore unless we get technology that can build on mountains, which, I mean, I won't say that won't happen, right? Yeah. That could very much happen. What's home prices going to do if we continue to wait 5 years, 10 years? Or we wait to chase an interest rate because an interest rate sounds sexy. It sounds sexy to say, I have a 2.3 interest rate and you have a 6. You know, like it sounds a lot better. And I get it in terms of affordability, especially with the way that home prices are right now. They are pretty, I mean, we're higher than the average medium of affordability, pretty much. But that doesn't mean that you should wait for '08 to happen again. And I say this time in and time again on this podcast because there are so many people that have PTSD from '08, and I get it. I understand why you have it. I understand that you at one point in time had a portfolio that was sitting pretty, and then within a blink of an eye, that portfolio went to negative, and you had to sell it because you couldn't afford to hold on. That's not our life anymore. We're in now. And Vegas is growing, and there's so many things that are coming here, and people are starting to see it. And if you continue to wait, that time is gone.
Correct.
You will have to go somewhere else that is more affordable. And I can guarantee you it's probably in a place or an area that you don't want to be in. So
I heard you ask this question to Ann, and It's so true. You're spot on. So in the past, if you look at the history of real estate, values have always trended up, right? There's always dips, ups, downs, all of these things. But if you look at it as a whole, the market trends upwards all the time. It's ever growing. So there's no wrong time to get into real estate as long as you're making smart decisions and you can afford it, right?
Right. As long as you can afford it, and you just need to align yourself with people who actually know what they're talking about.
Correct.
Not just somebody that does real estate part-time, and not just somebody that watched a tutorial and knows a little bit, somebody that has the moving fundamental pieces that you need to make sure that this transaction makes 110% and who can get you things that make this a reality. And too many people are sitting there not asking the right questions or not educating themselves, or they'll put in an inquiry online and then they won't pick up the phone. You want to know. It makes me so mad. Like I see you on my site every day and you never answer. Like they want to do something, but then they won't talk because they're afraid to talk to somebody because they feel like that person is going, like, just talk to me. You don't have to transact with me. If I'm not the person for you, that's fine. But at least let me give to you the education that I put myself through so I feel better. I don't know. Yeah. So it's just what you know.
We've been so conditioned to being sold, right? And it's almost like when you walk into the store. I did this recently too, and I had to apologize to the lady. I walked into the store, and the lady was like, "Do you need help?" And I was like, "No, I'm good." And I started walking up and down the aisle looking for what I was looking for. I couldn't find it, and I came back to her. I was like, "I'm so sorry. I need help." So I think it's that perception, but people are just sitting behind a screen, right? They need help, but they don't want to ask for it, at least yet, right? So it's just building up that, getting comfortable with them and building that trust so they do want to reach out to you.
Right.
And
not that pushy salesman thing. It's just education. Talk.
Correct.
Like I'm going to talk to somebody this upcoming week. She was a rental lead that I had got. Mm-hmm. And it really made my day. I had asked her, I always ask my renters this, why are we renting again? Mm-hmm. We're leaving a rental. Why are we? I mean, I'll get you at a rental. If that's what you want, I'm not going to force you to go down a buying process. That's totally okay.
Yeah.
And she told me, because nobody's ever really sat down and explained to me what the home buying process is. And I said, well, let's do that. Let's talk about the home buying process. I want you to at least know what is out there for you and what options are available to you. And then if you choose to rent again, then at least you know. Now you know what your goal looks like. Now you know what the steps are to be able to make that happen. And I was very, letting her know that this isn't going to be your dream home. This is just going to be a home that's going to leverage you, or be able, so you can leverage to get into that quote unquote dream home.
Correct.
But it does start with this one, especially in this Vegas market, because if it's not now, it's probably not going to be never, unless people decide to get high-paying income jobs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. It's coming from that perspective of teaching first, right? And really getting to know, what is somebody's goal? What are they trying to accomplish? Because sometimes we're just trying to force them into a house, right? And, hey, come buy this 3-bedroom house. I have 5 kids. What am I going to do with a 3-bedroom house, right? So it's what's their goal, and how can I come up with a game plan to help them get there?
And asking the right questions, because
Correct.
I could have been that agent that just was like, oh, you want to go see a rental? Let's go get you into the rental. And then I never asked that question. And then there again, she has nobody that's telling her, teaching her about this home buying process. And then she rents for another year or another 5 years or
Correct.
whatever that may look like. What is the biggest value that agents can have to investors?
The biggest value, I would say that agents are already out there hunting for deals, number one. You need deal flow to continue to build your pipeline. And the other side of it is, we build so many connections through just everyday work, really. So whatever resources that you need, whether, again, going back to you need somebody to clean the house, you need a contractor, you need a handyman, you need a plumber, you need an AC person, whatever it is. Like I've built up such a Rolodex. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can.
I know I look young, but I'm really old. So. But you build up that Rolodex of people that can help, right, and provide those services. So.
And you have that because just today, I was like, hey, you have a contractor? And immediately you're like, yeah, and you sent the contact and it was easy peasy. So you do have those connections, and you have said this time and time and again, and it sticks in my head all the time. Your net work is your net worth.
Absolutely.
And it's who you know.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I always hear that. So every time that I'm going to one of these networking events, and they're nerve-wracking. Like I'll talk to anybody, but I'm freaking the freak out before I get there. I'm like, oh, I gotta go talk to people. One's if they don't like me. One's if I look weird. One's if I'm not smiling. But I'm like, no, you have to go do these things because you have to make sure that you can find all these people that can potentially help your clients in theory and help each other. And you've said it too, that there's so much money for all of us to go out there together that we are not in competition. And
Correct.
I never felt that from you. You know, like when
Correct.
you meet certain agents and they're like, oh, you're an agent? Like what? You could have easily been like, what are you doing here? Like, I'm an agent. This is my group. Like, this is for investors, you know? But you didn't treat me like that. You're like, oh,
Welcome.
Cool.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's been my philosophy for a long time, is there's enough money out here for all of us. Let's go get it together. So,
Yeah, I love it. I love when you say that.
yeah. And one thing that you said, it's not only who you know, but who knows you, right? So the contractor that I referred you to, he got that referral because I knew him, right? So if I didn't know him.
You wouldn't have been able.
Correct.
And you've built up these relationships time and time again, and it's amazing. It's something special because there's so many people in the game that just aren't personable.
Correct.
They're not. I don't know why they're what they're doing, but
And if I can tell you a secret, I don't always like getting out there. I'm a little introverted and things like that. I have those conversations with myself before the meetup too. Like, I got to get out here and talk to these people and do all the things.
You do a great job.
Yes. At the end of the day, it's almost like going to the gym. Right? First, you don't want to do it, but then you get in there and you're like, man, I'm so glad I went. Right. And you meet these people and you just hear their stories, and you're able to just plug in with where they're at and help them to get to the next level. I mean, that's rewarding for me, right? I don't have to make all the money in the world, but if I can help other people win and be a part of that story, that's what's the most rewarding for me.
No, I really feel that you live that to a true means. People say that, but I don't think that they really live it. But I don't know you outside of the real estate meetups, but the way that you speak and the way that you carry yourself, it's pretty honorable. Yeah. So I appreciate this. And I know that even doing this is out of your comfort zone. And
correct.
I've asked so many people to come on the podcast, and they'll tell me they will. But you came. You showed up. Yes. And the information that you're giving to people, I can guarantee you that somebody's going to watch this and be like, I could do it.
Yes.
I'm going to go do it.
Yes.
If he could do it in New Orleans, then I can do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's insane. And my hat's off to you.
There's two types of fear, right? There's a bad fear that it's like, it's protecting you, right? Hey, don't do this. Don't touch that stove. It's hot. That type of fear. And then there's a good fear or a healthy fear that we need to move towards. That's the things that are going to get us outside of our comfort zone. That's going to grow and expand our brain, our capacity, everything that we want, right? They say everything you want is right outside your comfort zone. So doing something like this, for me, it's another one of those things like in the back of my mind, oh, I really don't want to do it, but it's like just jump and go do it. You never know what's going to happen, right? And it's going to just push that comfort zone, and you never know what's going to come from it. Like you said, it could touch somebody that it'll change their life, right?
No, I will.
Yeah.
Because it just takes that one person. That's why I started this journey. I mean, I'm not the the best agent that's out there, right? There's people that have been in the game a lot longer than me, but I'm going to give it my all. I've educated myself every single day. Just like you said, we treat this like a 9-to-5. Honestly, I treat this a lot more than a 9-to-5 because I'm constantly working.
Yes.
But that's okay because I love what I'm doing now, and it's not what I was doing when I was working for somebody else, because that just, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Was I a really good manager? Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
I was. But I wasn't happy.
Yes.
And that was the biggest thing is
Yeah.
I knew that I could no longer give my best version or the best tools or the advice and be the best person to not only the clients, but to my employees that pretty much when you're a manager, you are like, you set the tone, you know, they're looking after you, whether they're younger, older,
Yep.
they watch somebody that's in a higher position than them.
Absolutely.
And if you look miserable, what kind of hope do you set for them? You don't.
Yeah, I learned that quickly. My first job out of college, I became a PE teacher, actually. I was a PE teacher for kindergarten through 8th grade, and I did all the PE classes, all the after-school sports. I was the athletic director, and I was 21, 22 at the time, and I had parents in their 40s that were coaches with me, but I noticed they were like hanging on to everything I was saying and just following me. And I was like, this is crazy to sit back and watch, but it's all about, right, getting under that right leadership, right? So you said like when you're managing and you're putting your all in, that people will follow you, right? And that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And for me, nothing's wasted, right? No season is wasted. Those skills that you learn then are going to come into what you're doing now in real estate, and it's going to help you just grow that much faster.
I just outgrew it. I'm like a hermit crab. I had to leave that shell. That shell no longer fit me.
Yeah.
And I knew that. In order to grow, you have to go and do something that's really scary.
That's it.
This has been really freaking scary. I will not lie.
I love it.
This has been quite the endeavor, but honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change this experience. I wouldn't do anything different.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask you a couple of questions just so people, I mean, I'm sure people already know who you are, but if you could work in one niche, what would it be? For if this was the only niche that you could work in, whether it's luxury, investors, first-time home buyers, what would that look like for you? Who does your heart have? What
Investors.
group of people?
Investors, for sure. And that's something that I've been working on for the past few months is niching down into the investor space, because that's where I want to be anyway, and I speak that language, right? So I think that's where I can best serve people, is operating in that space, and just hoping.
I love that. I love that. What's worse, a client that ghosts you or a client that calls you at 3 a.m.?
The client that ghosts me, because the one at 3 a.m., my phone's on silent anyway. But
You can't reach me, baby.
I'll give him a call when I wake up.
Once if it's like dire need, answer, or I can't, or I'm walking away. I mean, there's some crazy individuals like that.
You know, I look at it at the perspective of what if I came to your job, and I don't know where that person might work, but somebody doesn't show up to your job at 3 a.m., right? Forcing you to do stuff. There's not much that can move in the real estate world outside of business hours anyway, right? Lenders are closed, escrow's closed, like all the resources are closed. The only thing we can go do is go see a house, right? So that's the way I look at it.
That's a really fair point. And that's for anybody that kind of feels that, you know, we should be answering our phones 24/7. Should we respond back to you? Absolutely. Yeah. This is our service. We should absolutely return your phone call, because there are agents and different people in this industry that, quite frankly, they don't know what a telephone is. I don't know. I have people that I've left voice messages for and have yet to hear back from them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to me, even when you leave them a voicemail and you give them a very descriptive voicemail, like, this is what I'm calling for. Please, at this number, call me back. But, you know, they don't.
Yes.
But it is setting that standard, right? Not only you're a human, but you have standards. Like, this is when I'm going to reply back to you, because this is when we can do something. But I am going to respond back to you. I'm not just going to ghost you.
I make it a point to respond to everybody that reaches out to me, because I think it's important. Number one, it's a sign of respect. There are those boundaries, and I put those boundaries in place because I am a husband, I am a father, right? And I do this for my family. And if my business continues to pull me away from my family and I can't spend time with them, then what am I doing this for, right? I'm doing this for them. But if I can't spend the time, why does it matter?
No, I really like that.
Yeah.
What's one DIY project you've attempted to do, and did it include duct tape?
And didn't include duct tape.
Have you ever done one of those crazy DIY projects where you're like, oh yeah, I could do that?
I have. So I'll give you a little bit of a background. I helped my parents downsize to a smaller home. They were in a 5-bedroom, 2-story house. Now they're in a 3-bedroom, 1-story. And my dad got in there and remodeled the whole house himself. Right? My dad is, maybe I shouldn't tell his age on here, but right, in late 60s. Right? So he just loves to do those types of things. And I grew up with that, right? I watched him like remodel bathrooms when I was little and always working on the cars and always doing that type of stuff. So I learned a lot from him. So I still do a lot of stuff myself, right? And I feel like I do it pretty well.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're a successful DIYer.
Yeah. I would say I tried to build a bird cage one time. That didn't come out too well. But
I love it.
Outside of that, yeah.
What's one thing that you would tell younger Ryan? What advice would you give younger Ryan if you could go back and...
Well, I would tell myself to roll that 50,000 into another deal. That's number one. That's a great question. And I'm only stuck on the question because I've always been really good at seeking out people that are wiser than me, older than me, that have been there, done that, and following that path.
That model.
Because I've seen the things that they did to bump their head, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that, right? So I've always had good wisdom in my life. I don't know, maybe just take more risks, take more challenges early on. Not be afraid to jump out there and do something and fail, right? Because failure, this is something I'm still learning, but failure is not turn around and do something else. Failure is, okay, let me analyze this situation. What went wrong? How can I improve it so the next time it shows up, right, it doesn't happen again. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I really love that because failure is in anything that we do, and it's not just getting off that horse and calling it quits because, you know, you failed or you fell off or whatever that looks like. It's continuing to do something that your intuition knows that you should be doing.
Correct.
And following it all the way through, because even in the investing side of things, even on the agent side of things, even on the side of things of being a human being and just living life, like there's so much failure that happens, but it's learning from those failures, because without failures, there's no growth. And I'm a very firm believer in that.
Yep. An interesting stat that came back up recently was Kobe Bryant, right? He has the record for the most missed shots in the NBA, but he's still a Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it. So
because he wasn't afraid. And he knew that when everybody else would have been afraid to take that last winning shot for the game, and that's the same with Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
He would decide to do it.
Yep.
He would take the weight of the team, and whether that resulted in a win or loss, and they have to live with that, right? Like, but they took that chance.
That's it.
And they won a lot of games taking that chance. So
They sure did.
I guess that brings me to my point. Take a chance on yourself. Believe in yourself. It's scary. Yes. Is purchasing a home scary? Absolutely. Do you have to do it for investment purposes? No. But what you should do is invest in yourself. Invest in doing something that's out of the ordinary. Just don't do what is easy. Renting is easy. It's a lot easier. It's a lot less complicated. But even at that point, it can be, and it's costly. So stop costing yourself money. Start talking to the right people. Thank you so much for coming on. Let's talk about real estate. Thank you so much, Ryan. Where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram, realestateryan_. That's probably where I'm at the most. So.
That's where you're active?
Yeah. I'm going to say it here publicly because then it's going to force me to do it and hold myself accountable. But I'm starting a real estate channel, a YouTube channel that's going to focus on teaching, right? Going back to teaching the things that I know, and then also going through some fix and flip projects because I really love seeing what a project can be and walking into it and having that vision and see it come to fruition. So
I can't wait to watch it.
Yes.
And I'm sure you guys can't wait to watch it. Look, I can't wait to have Ryan back on when he's in a little bit different of a space and we get to see all that is Ryan. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next Tuesday.